I don't want to force you. If you are ready, you can go. But other than that, we could do something else. It's important that you feel okay with giving your book report today, considering that the previous one was just last week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in that case, if the option is mine, I prefer to present later on, maybe next week, so that the girls, Daniela and Rocio, can present this Friday.
Sure, sure.
Okay,
That's totally an option. Yeah, absolutely. I
but
was trying.
teacher,
Mhm. Yes.
I sent you a message because I'm not sure about which book you prefer me to present because I have two options, Lolita and The Catcher in the Rye. I like both, but I don't know which one is more useful for your purposes in the course.
Um, Well, essentially, the book reports are to be chosen by students. That's the first priority. Now, if you ask me, um, which one would be more beneficial, I don't know. And that's quite subjective. Quite
Mhm.
subjective. Both books are interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Both.
Lolita because it is more controversial. The Catcher in the Rye, I think, is kind of old-fashioned nowadays. So I'm gonna go with Lolita next week.
Okay, good choice. Yes, good choice. I think it is controversial. I was thinking about a piece of news I read, well, actually, like twice, about a movement that was trying to legalize. I don't know the exact name. Maybe you know it, and you can help me out with this one. Um, a movement that was trying to
Mhm.
legalize the love for. They were
Yeah,
like pedophiles, and they were trying to legalize the love for children.
yes, I'm aware of that movement. Yeah,
Okay.
actually, I was planning on talking about that movement in the discussion section.
Okay. Good.
So, yeah,
Good. Because it is still controversial. There's a very fine line if we review history. It wasn't a long time ago that homosexuals were not accept. I mean, homosexualism was not accepted. Um, um, Women did not have right to vote and were just segregated to specific tasks or labors in society. Uh, Children used to work; they were considered small adults, and girls were conceiving children very early, very young. Uh, so society evolves. Um, our so-called Western civilization is still on the move, and taboos, or what we consider to be prohibited, is not. So it isn't. So that's the point of I think addressing Lolita. That is a topic that is still controversial, and we need to look at it from a very broad and wide perspective, right?
hmm yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Now, The Catcher in the Rye. It is an interesting book in terms of. I mean, it becomes a classic um, because it explores this um, feeling lost, right? This feeling of the adolescent who is trying to explore his or her own reality, and sometimes feels disappointed by what he finds in society. He feels that growing up is becoming uh, hypercritical or a phony, as he says.
yes.
So, mhm.
I think that book was the first one in his category. I mean, coming of age type of books. So that's the reason why it became so famous. So it is an important book in the American literature, but I think that since the time in which it was published, there have been a lot of different books about the same topic, so it is not a novelty nowadays to talk about the loss of infancy and adolescence. For me, in my opinion, personally.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yes, you're right. You're right about that. And I'm sure that you're going to generate more discussion with Lolita than with the Catcher in the Rye. Now, for pedagogical purposes, which one would you choose to teach English or to use it in school? Probably the Catch in the Rye would be a tolerable option in some schools, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, it was banned as well in that period because it
Mm.
was like the opposite to the ideal American at that time. Remember that it was published after the Second World War, so they had
Mm.
an ideal of what an American should be, but the protagonist was the opposite, totally different to that ideal. So it was banned in many, many schools.
Exactly, exactly. It's this type of character that is rejected and lost hope in society. That is the main character, and this exploratory trip. It's not only physical but also psychological, and that's interesting about the main character, who's not also, or no one has faith in it except his sister, right?
Mhm.
So it's an interesting, and also the author, right? The author was, I think, disappeared from
Yeah,
public scene. So
yeah,
that
he
created a
disappeared
mystery.
completely. Yeah, actually, he never gave an interview, so nobody knows much about Salinger. He is a complete mystery.
Exactly, and that is exacerbating, right? So also generates more discussion because of this mysterious aura surrounding the creation of this literary work. So your choice is perfectly fine for me. I think, and in the beginning, you are the one to. It's your call, right? It's your call actually.
Yeah, but I have options, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having options is also always good, right? When you run out of options, is basically when we start looking at the problem. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, we were discussing with Barbara her choice for the book report coming, probably next week. Um, I think we have one more. Um, Not today's, right? Because today's book report was the one presented by Maria Paz and Nicole Gallardo, To Kill a Mockingbird. And also, we have one more by Daniela and Rocio. Unfortunately, I think they are not here. No, they're not, right? So we have three pending, okay? Three pending. So Barbara's schedule next week. Probably this Friday, we're having Daniela's and Rocio's. We need to confirm that. I'm sorry, Barbara, you were going to say?
no, no, nothing.
Okay. And that's the deal for today, all right? So we're going to reverse, or we're going to reschedule or reorganize some of the activities as far as I remember. We were having a book report today that is not going to happen. And then next week we were organizing ourselves for I don't want to say we're going to be preparing ourselves for the global interview, but because it sounds very um, it sounds too complex, and this interview should not be considered as too complex, all right? So we're going to reorganize our activities. I would like you to take a moment. We're going to establish or create a pool of questions. So each one of you, at least there are 10 participants today. each one of you will consider one question. I know that you may come up with many, but I think in order to process the questions and in order to go um, deep in the questions, we don't have enough time to cover, I don't know, 24 or 30 questions. Rocio, considering you're here, good morning.
Good morning, Professor.
Um, so I got a message. I had some internet issues yesterday, so I just saw it in the morning, very early in the morning. You were asking to have your book report given on Friday, this Friday. Is that true?
Yes, because we chose a different book. I don't know if
Mm-hmm,
you remember with Daniela.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I thought we have some book reports left today. So as I thought they were already prepared for today. So as I said, for Friday we would be presenting ours with Daniela. So not to not interrupt the group for today.
Yeah, I would like to give you the green light because I already confirmed with Barbara that she's given hers next week. And Nicole's and Maria Paz, I think they are also scheduled for next week, probably next Friday. So I'm totally fine with you giving yours this Friday, uh, July the 3rd.
Thank you, Professor.
No, no, thank you, thank you. So we're good, excellent. So so far we have 11 participants, right? Since Rocio joined us. And the same task for you. Think about one question, consider all the book reports that you have given and that you have been a participant to, and select one question, hopefully a question that may admit more than one answer, okay? Not a question like, for example, what's the name of the main character in the work Moby Dick? Which also could be tricky because who's the main character, right, in that particular book? But not a question that could be answered in one single question, okay? Think about a question that may arise some discussion or conversation that may create an instance of discussion, okay? So that is a task. Alejandro, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you, Alejandro?
Doing fine. Yep.
All right, all right. So, how much time do you think you would need to generate this question?
Professor, is this question for this class or for the interview?
Both.
Sorry, Rose.
Both.
Are you asking me or like to all of us?
I'm asking you to have an idea, maybe about what the rest of your classmates would consider to be, enough time to elaborate this answer. We already have one question created by Miguel in the chat room. So, what do you think? 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
How much? No, big deal. How much time do you need for this task? Which is to design, to elaborate, to create a question about one of the book reports that you gave, or about any other report that you were a participant to or a witness. Is it's 5 minutes okay?
Maybe
Yeah.
10?
Okay then.
Yes, then could be.
10 would be
Sure.
great.
10. Now, the more questions you have, the more questions we'll have for. I mean, the more questions that will be incorporated in the global interview, because I think it's a good practice to use the same questions elaborated by students. I did this a couple of years ago, and it worked well. It worked exactly as if I had the only one creating the questions. So yeah, one question would be enough. Two, better. Three, excellent. Okay. So let's set the timer for 10 minutes, as you said. 10 minutes is sounds fine for me. So you have 10 minutes to create at least one question, right, about any of the book reports that you were a part of, either as an audience or as a presenter. This question, you will read it later. You will explain if you have, if anyone has doubts about the direction the question is taking, and then we're going to pitch in with answers. We're going to discuss it until we are satisfied with the answer. Okay, so 10 minutes is going to be. Um, I'm going to start this timer, and I'm going to be here. So remember, one question good, two questions better, three questions excellent. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good.
Professor, we can hear you. You are silenced.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm trying to. Okay, I'm trying to find. Let me try again. Okay. I think there was a lot of reverberation present in whenever I was trying to speak, so I was listening to myself while I was speaking. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. So we have several very, very good questions, and the idea now is that we can choose one and we can discuss the possible answer. And so, Lauda, are you there?
Yes, Professor.
Lauda, which question would you like to choose?
Okay. I like one that says that if you were a character, but I can't find it. I think that Catalina wrote that.
Yes.
I can't find it, sorry, in the chat.
Maybe Catalina can help us.
Yeah, the question says, think you are a character of a book. Which author would you like to write your story? I meant the authors of the book reports we have seen so far.
Yes. I liked that question. I really like it. It was a very good question. Do I have to answer it, right? Or at least.
You can go both ways, right? You can start start answering the question, or you can choose someone to you can choose someone to answer it. Yeah.
Well, I can start, and then I could pick up someone.
Great. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so in my personal case, I would choose Poe because I think that he has an interest. I'm sorry, I can't say that
Interesting.
word.
Yes. Interesting.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. All
Yes,
right.
a way of perceiving life, and the way he ends his stories are very, I don't know, like mind blowing, because you wouldn't expect a story to end up like that way. And I don't know, in the Black Cat, I felt like he was having, I don't know, an strange perception of his cat. And that in my case, I love pets, but I would never think that my pet could be like this, the one to blame for my behavior. So even though I don't agree with him in that aspect, I think that an he's a great writer, and it keeps you very interested on what on his narratives. So I think that it could be a special story. I don't know. I don't know who else wants to answer that question or try. I don't know.
May I say something?
Yes, Catalina.
I was thinking about Paul, and I really admire you because I wouldn't like him to write my story. In that case, I would choose to be like the neighbor of the protagonist or something like that.
Yes.
I think he is um, I don't know. He's darker than the way I would like to tell my story. I don't know.
Yes.
Does anyone would like to answer the same question, or we can proceed by the last one to choose another classmate, and then the classmate can choose to answer the same question or pick up another one. Catalina, can you choose one of your classmates? He or she can answer the same question or pick up a different one, all right?
Okay, but does anybody wants to say something before I choose one? Okay. Rocio, could you? Sorry, teacher. Do I have to choose another question or just keep the one?
It's up to the student, actually. What I mean is you choose, you pick a classmate, and then that classmate of yours can decide whether to answer the same question that was previously stated or pick up a different one.
Yeah, I think that Rocio is not available. Maybe Alejandra?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Um, I I have a question that I want to answer, but I lost it. I don't know where it is. Give me a second. So I can I answer another question, right? For the meantime, or I should I keep talking about the question that they were talking about earlier?
No, this is quite flexible, and it can go in any direction. You can pick up any other, and even if we have if we have already discussed one question, we can go back to it. So it doesn't matter. Actually, we can go in circles or go in a straight line.
Okay, I would like to answer one of Diana's questions, which is what is the difference between a reliable and mysterious narrator? Is there any connection as well? I like this question in particular because in some, for example, I take the example of my two literary works that we did with my group. For example, in the Murders of the Rue Morgue, the narrator is the friend of the protagonist. It's called the narrator, and it's kind of a biased interpretation of a narrator because he is so fascinated by the protagonist intellect and and how his mind works that maybe in some at some degree he's blinded by that. So maybe he's a little bit biased towards him, and uh, and in other cases we have, for example, in Sister Carrie, that it's a omniscient type of narrator which knows everything, and it's well, it's not that mysterious, but uh, it knows all the facts and what happened to the to the main character, and it gives little reflections about life in that sense. So I mean, if we have to compare it, in a mysterious narrator would be maybe different if the type of narrator was different. So I think that's why I like this question. I don't know if anyone wants to add something to my answer.
You can choose, Alejandro. Who would you like to answer the question?
Okay. Let me see the participants. Carlos, I don't know if you want to add something or answer another question. No.
Excuse me, me?
Yeah, yeah.
What was the question?
No, I mean, if you want to answer the same question, or you would like to answer your another question. I don't know. It's up to you.
Um, I'm going to answer another question,
Okay.
and let me look for it. Just a second. Um, I think I'm going to answer the. Oh, I had it here. This thing moved, and I lost it. Oh, this one from Mauricio. It says, "From the book reports you have presented, in which way does the plot relate to the author?" Well, we can see that many stories have been were written in with quite particular events, I would say. So I'm going to relate these events with the Edgar Allan Poe with the Black Cat. Can you hear me well, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. And because we have to consider that Poe, he lived until 40 years, until his 40s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But the interesting thing that he has, that he uh, got married with an 13 age, I think 13 age. It was her cousin,
Yes,
and
13-year cousin.
yes, cousin, and he was quite alcoholic. So maybe that was the fact that his stories were quite um, unique in a positive way. So here we can see the relation. I don't think this is for every author that the way they live. It shouldn't be like a requirement to write an interesting piece of writing. So I don't know. What do you think? Does anybody wants to answer this question or add something from another author?
Carlos, pick a classmate.
Yes,
You
yes.
decide.
I was going to count. That's my method. So if I count till
Okay.
5, I'm going to choose a classmate. So
Okay, follow your method, right?
okay, okay. I'm going to count until 5. Okay. If you don't say anything, I'm going to pick. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you. And so we have a volunteer here. It's called Carla Estuardo. Hello, Carla. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Carla. Can you add something to the question I answered, or do you want to answer another question?
I would like to answer another question. I was looking for it.
Okay, Carla, go ahead. The
It's here.
microphone is all yours.
Thank you. Uh, the question is, do you think it could be possible to adapt your book report to modern times? Why? Why not? Um, I think that um, one of the book reports that I um, studied, it was a Sister Carrie, and I think we can adapt this story to the modern time because it's about a girl who um, traveled to another city, to a big city in this case. So I think that it wasn't. It was for a different purpose, but if I think in Mother's Day, many people traveled to big city for studies or for having a better life, lifestyle. So I think that I can uh, I can adapt the story and maybe thinking on my classmates who live in cities where there are no universities, for example. So they travel to, I don't know, for example, in this case, Talca or Curicó to study and to have better opportunities for the future. I don't know if it's correct.
The good thing about this class discussion is that you selected questions that are quite open. So what you're saying is totally connected with the current personal reality that you're living. And Sister Carrie is quite adaptable. I was thinking about the literary work, right? We're not talking about the book report. The literary work, it's totally adaptable. I agree with you, considering that we have in our country a very strong capitalist system. Then we're having probably the same drives, the same themes covered in the story present in nowadays everyday life, such as ambition, right, or social climbing, or the possibilities of people using other people just to get what they need or what they want achieve in life. So yeah, I think it's quite relatable. Now, Carla, would you like someone else to answer the same question, which is quite interesting, or choose a different one? Then you have to decide which of your classmates. Okay.
Okay. The class. Mauricio.
Okay.
I don't know if you can answer the same question or another one.
I would like to answer another one.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to answer the question made by Laura. It says, if you were a writer nowadays, which literary devices would you include in a short story and why? Um, Personally, I think that if I were like a writer, I would definitely go for satire. Is that well pronounced, by the way? Satire? I don't know if anyone can help me. Okay. Um, I would definitely go for that because in the book report that I gave, which was The Great Gatsby,
Sorry,
satire
satire.
was.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you,
Correct.
Professor. So
Sure.
satire was used a lot in The Great Gatsby, and it is usually used like to criticize something, but in an indirect way. So you usually emphasize, I don't know, if you, for example, are trying to criticize the upper class, let's say, just an example, you emphasize the characteristics or of that person like too much. So I think I would use satire maybe to portray different issues. For example, I don't know, capitalism maybe, or gender, or any like social or controversial topic from nowadays. Because I think satire is a very, I think it's a clever way to criticize or critique something. Because some people get it and some people get it the wrong way. So I think it's a clever way to do it. And yeah, I think that's it mainly.
Oh man, I definitely agree with you. I think it's a clever way, a very sophisticated way of mocking the weaknesses of society and the human weaknesses as well. And I totally agree with you that the particular value of it is that some get it, and sometimes, and most oftentimes, uh, the ones who are mocked at don't get it. So that's sort of a very sophisticated use of a language, particularly seen in authors that criticize social injustices and human flaws, particularly in the ruling class, right? So it's a wonderful choice. And I was wondering, Mauricio, would you like to consider the use of satire in your own literary work?
Do you mean in the upcoming one?
Yep.
Definitely. I hadn't thought about it, but maybe now I'll consider it.
Okay. All right.
I,
Right.
I
Right.
definitely
Mauricio,
need to. Sorry.
you definitely need to.
I definitely need to check out more like how to write using satire because I haven't. But yeah, I would definitely do it, I think.
Right. Probably understatements work well instead of using, an exaggerated type of language. Sometimes when you diminish your statements, they have to be interpreted the other way around. So you have sometimes to read between the lines to understand what the author, in this case you, are exactly trying to convey. So understatement could be a good way to start.
Okay, thank you.
And who is the next person you're going to choose?
The next person is Diana Contreras. So
Here
the
I am.
stage is all yours.
Thank you. I would like to choose the question written by Laura. It says, how do you think the themes present in a story relate to its author? Um, and in my opinion, I think that an author cannot write about something that he or she has zero knowledge about. And I think whether, well, they can investigate it, of course, but they have to feel like a special connection to what they are going to write about. For example, I would I would say it like I could make a connection with me writing my literary work, because I cannot write something that I don't feel connected with. I have to maybe relate to a certain level. And I think the author also can take several aspects of his or her life to inspire themselves into writing the story. I think it's just it's very important that, because if the author doesn't have a connection, if the author doesn't quite know what they're writing about, I don't think the story will be. I don't think the reader will feel as connected to the story if the author was not connected either. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Absolutely. And Diana, what's your connection? Who do you feel connected to?
One author from my book reports or any author?
No, I would say you as a writer, you need to be, or you need to feel connected to what you're writing about, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you
I think,
feel?
yeah, I think I feel very connected to my romantic side. I like writing like something related with romance, but I also feel connected with something maybe more mysterious, that or not mysterious, but that can be taken uh, in several ways. I mean, whether I mean, depending on the mood of the reader. I would like to say that if I were to write a really good story that many people read, I would say that I would feel connected to write something that the reader can connect to on several levels, and also adding something romantic to the mix, and maybe something the the drama, or maybe something like a satire, as Maura said, because I think those are good topics to take our minds off the world, because when we read, for me, we read to escape a little bit of the reality that maybe is consuming us, and we want to maybe read something that makes us feel a little bit better.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one interesting perspective, right? When you write to avoid reality, when you open doors to a different realm. In this way, if you choose as an author to write about that, you might be satisfying a personal need of escaping reality, or you can also be thinking about your possible audience and consider that this might be a source or an element used by the audience to um, interpret the reality in a different way. And that's interesting what you said, Diana. An author needs to connect to the topic that he's writing about. For example, if in your case it's art, you may write about art, right, or story connected with art. And if you can connect the dots and say, well, I like art, but I also like romance, or uh, I have a romantic side and also like mystery. A combination of these elements can make up a unique um, literary work in the sense of exploratory literary work. So that's a very good exercise. What you propose. Think about what makes you tick. What makes you connect. What makes you vibrate, and then that's going to be one interesting starting point to write something about. Some people are very connected with, for example, social topics, or are very mad by social injustice. Some people are, some people feel that they are. Sorry, that's my dogs are feeling very happy. So you need to think about something that makes you vibrate. Otherwise, the writing task becomes quite boring, and in the end, you have to finish it just because it's a task.
Yes, I agree with you.
So Diana, what's going to be? Because
Oh,
we're about to have a break, and then we need to make a decision. would you like to continue with this exercise, which is some way democratic, because you proposed the questions, and then taking turns to answer the questions, picking a different student. We can continue with the same procedure, right? The same way we were doing this, or we can change it, and maybe after the break we can do something different, such as, for example, I can ask questions, open questions. We could discuss them in general. I mean, if you like this way of working, we can continue after the break.
Oh my goodness, do I have to choose?
Not really. What we can do is we can take a 10-minute break. Well, it's 9:40, 9:50. We get back together and then we decide.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it will be better. Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to put any pressure on you now. Okay, so guys, please take a 10-minute break. I'm going to take a 10-minute break as well. And then after the break, we decide if we continue with the same method or we change it. Okay? So enjoy the break.
Okay, Professor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.